Hey everybody, this is 1.3b, measuring segments and midpoints. The do now asks you if x equals 5, what is the length of MN, NO, and MO? Feel free to pause the video and resume it when you're ready to check your answers. So they ask you to find three things: MN, which equals 3x plus 7, as clarified here. NO is equal to 10x minus 5. And then they want you to find the entire length of the segment, which is MO. But MO is MN plus NO, right? Because the entire line is made up of segment MN and segment NO. So the most important piece of information that makes this question easier from the ones we did yesterday is they give us the x value. So everywhere I see an x, I'm going to substitute in a 5. We'll leave this one. So MN is equal to 3 times 5 plus 7. And from here, it's just a normal, simplifying expressions here. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 7 is 22. All right, 10 times 5 is 50. Minus 5 is 45. So now that you know MN and NO, you can plug in their values to find the length of MO, segment MO. MN is 22 plus 45, and that makes 67. Okay. All right, three definitions today. Congruent segment is a segment or segments that have the same length. So if segments have the same length, they are congruent. This word right here. The congruent symbol, jot this down, is an equal sign with a squiggle line over it. So that means congruent. Okay. So in the picture below congruent segments, you have AB, and its length is 1 inch, and you have CD, and its length is 1 inch. So since both segments have the same length, we can say AB, or segment AB, is congruent to segment CD. The midpoint is the point that divides the segment into two congruent parts, meaning it cuts the segment equally in half. Okay, the bisector is a point, line, ray, or segment that goes through the midpoint. Okay, so your midpoint in the image below is B. B is your midpoint. All right, it cuts the line in half, and they are congruent. If you notice here, we have these two strange double orange lines. Okay, in geometry, and we're going to continue to work on this when we get to angles, AB is congruent to segment BC. So if you can't see that, AB, right here, AB, this line, is congruent to BC, meaning they have the same length. Okay, I'll clear that up. So B is your midpoint, and your bisector is any line or ray or point that goes through the midpoint. Like line L here, that's a bisector because it cuts AC in half. So using the midpoint, we have P, Q, and R. All right. Important bit of information here is point Q is the midpoint. Okay, so let's get into the habit. Since we know that these lines are equal or congruent, PQ and QR. All right, put your two little slashes on the line. Now, solving for x this time, because PQ is 6x minus 7, and QR is 5x plus 1. Okay? Since we have a midpoint, and we know we have a midpoint, that means that PQ and QR are the same length. So I set them equal to each other here. So really, 6x minus 7 is equal to 5x plus 1. Now, we have variables on both sides, and I need to get those x's on the same side of the equal sign. I always suggest moving the smaller ones. So to move a positive 5x, you are going to subtract it on both sides. Your 5x's cancel, and 6x minus 5x makes x. Minus 7 equals 1. To isolate the x value, I need to add 7 on both sides. And x equals 8. All right. Step 2 is to find PQ. Well, PQ is 6x minus 7. So all I need to do is plug in my value for x, which we now know is 8. PQ equals 6 times 8 minus 7. Well, 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 7 is 42. 6 times 8 is 48 minus 7. And 48 minus 7 is 41. So the length of PQ, and you could put it right above 6x minus 7, is 41. Step 3 is to find the length of QR. Well, we know PQ, is 41, and we're trying to find QR, and x equaled 8. So QR is equal to 5 times 8 plus 1. 5 times 8 is 40. Plus 1 makes 41. Okay. Now they want us to find the length of PR, which is the entire segment. Okay. And QR, we now know, is also 41. And that would make sense because Q is the midpoint, meaning it cuts these lines exactly in half. So they are both 41. So PR is equal to 41 plus 41. Which means the entire length of the segment is 82. Okay. More practice here. Point U is the midpoint of TV. Okay, so again, U is the midpoint, which means TU and UV are congruent. Okay, so to solve for x, we're going to set TU equal to UV. 8x plus 11 equals 12x minus 1. I'm going to subtract 8x on both sides, and my 8x's cancel. 11 equals 4x minus 1. Normal two-step equation to isolate x, I'm going to add 1 to both sides, and we get 12 equals 4x, and then divide by 4 on both sides, and we get x equals 12 divided by 4 is 3. Now that we know x equals 3, we can solve for the segments. TU is equal to 8 times 3 plus 11. TU is equal to 24 plus 11, which is 35. So we know TU is 35 and x equals 3. Okay. Now, if U is the midpoint, we already know that UV should be 35. So all we need to do is prove it. UV is equal to 12 times 3 minus 1. Whoops. 12 times 3 minus 1. UV is equal to 36 minus 1, and UV equals 35. Okay, so there we go. We've proved that U is the midpoint. Okay, in order to find TV, we're just going to add the two segments. TV is equal to 35 plus 35. So TV is equal to 70. All right. For your exit slip, what I want you to do is you need to determine the length of, you need to determine X to find the length of AB and BC. Then you have to tell me, is point B the midpoint of AC, yes or no? And you need to prove that with your work above. So to find X, okay, you have AB plus BC equals AC. All right, so we set them equal to each other. So AB is 5X plus 15 plus 3X minus 5 equals AC. So these were the types of equations that we solved yesterday because we are trying to determine if B is the midpoint. We are not sure yet. Therefore, we couldn't do AB equals BC like we did in the previous two problems or examples. So really we're going to combine like terms here. 5x plus 3x makes 8x, and 15 minus 5 is 10. Okay. AC is equal to 66. We are going to subtract 10 on both sides, and 8x equals 56. Divide both sides by 8, and x equals 7. Okay, use 7 to find the length of AB and of BC. If point B is the midpoint, that means that AB is congruent to BC. So you're going to determine that by solving these. All right, show me your work. Tell me whether or not they are congruent, and if they are, the answer is yes. If they are not, the answer is no. All right, I look forward to seeing your work on the last bit of this problem. Thanks for watching.